Hi, everyone, this is the Encyclopedia channel, and the book that this program will interpret for you is Yes, and. The improv performance in the title of the book refers to a form of stage performance that has no script, only the theme, and is performed by the actors themselves. The authors of this book are two executives of a well-known American improv troupe, Second City, Leonard and Tom Yorton. This troupe is very interesting. They not only have a lot of offline performances and have cultivated many famous comedians, but they also provide business guidance. So, what are the techniques of improvisation? Can it be applied to the commercial field and our daily work? After listening to this episode, you will understand. For example, many business elites will come to their improv training. These elites come to learn improv, not because they want to do this business, but because they want to use these skills to assist their work, such as team management, communication with customers, and so on. Moreover, this troupe will also provide consulting services to some commercial companies, helping them with compliance training, planning promotional activities, or solving some specific difficulties. Even among the companies that come to them for help, there are also agencies that specialize in providing consulting to companies. In other words, this troupe has become the consulting company of these consulting companies. Because these consulting companies find that they also have many difficulties in the process of communicating with customers, and if they can master some improvisation skills, they can also help them conduct business better. There is such a sentence in the book, which sums it up brilliantly. Excellent impromptu performance is composed of three core conditions: creativity, communication, and cooperation, and career success also depends on these three conditions. The career mentioned here includes both corporate and personal. For example, the book mentions that there is an article in the New York Times, which says that when Google recruits talents, it focuses on the characteristics of responsibility, the willingness to let go of power, and the willingness to create space for others to contribute and the ability to learn from failure. These, in fact, are essential qualities of an improviser, and they can be learned by anyone. In this issue of interpretation, we will focus on telling you some wonderful cases in the book, as well as the important principles of improvisation. I believe that these contents can help everyone improve their adaptability, cooperation ability, and creativity, and better cope with the ever-changing challenges in work and life. First part. Let me talk about a few interesting examples I saw in the book. There was a businessman named Elliot Massey who had been trained in improv at Second City, and he had a hilarious and embarrassing experience. Once, a company invited him to give a speech. When he got there, he found that the other party had confused him with another person, and he didn't understand the topic of the speech displayed on the big screen. Then what should we do? Marcy looked at the expectant eyes of the audience, so he had to stand up and walk onto the stage. He told the audience, "Who will tell me what you least understand about this subject?" As a result, the audience raised their hands one after another. Marcy just ordered one person, and after that person finished speaking, he went on to say, "Very well, this friend asked a question, who can answer it?" Several people raised their hands. Marcy asked one of them to stand up and speak, then ask others to fill in. In this way, among the constant questions, interactions, and additions, the speech went on. When it was over, the audience stood up and applauded him warmly. And what was even more interesting was that Marcy later received 4 more invitations to speak, all on a subject he didn't understand at all. Later, Massey said, he used the method in improv, co-creating with the audience. If you want to build a good performance atmosphere, you don't need to be alone. You can make the best use of the resources on the scene and turn the content of the audience's speeches into a part of your performance. This also applies in business speeches. The book also talks about another student named Katie. She is a human resources manager of a technology company, young and promising, and was selected into the company's high-potential executive training program. This program lasts for 2 years, and those selected will be rotated into new positions every 6 months. Therefore, it is necessary that the selected people can quickly integrate into the new team and establish new contacts. But the problem is that Katie is relatively introverted and taciturn, so she is very anxious. She feels that it is too difficult for everyone to recognize her and like her just after entering a new team. The lecturer in the Second City learned of this situation and asked Katie to participate in a game called Entrance. They put Katie and half of the class on stage and lined up, while the rest of the class was in the audience. Then the lecturer said, "Students on the stage, please look at the students off the stage, and students off the stage, please look at the students on the stage." Then, in the next minute, the students on the stage and off the stage began to feel shy, uneasy, some looked away, and some smiled embarrassedly. At this time, the lecturer gave another instruction: "Now, please count how many bricks are on the wall behind me." As a result, within a few seconds, the uneasiness at the scene disappeared, and everyone started concentrate on counting bricks. After another half-minute, they were completely relaxed. The purpose of this exercise is to teach students that one of the most effective ways to eliminate anxiety is to stop focusing on yourself and instead put all your energy into the task at hand. This is a basic mentality that improvisers must implement before and after they take the stage. It is also applicable to people like Katie who need to adapt to a new team or open up a new situation. Joining a new team is like stepping onto a new stage. What you have to do is not to think about what others think of you, but to concentrate on doing what you should do. Later, Katie did exactly that. After a period of time, she found that in fact, only she herself would judge her own performance all the time, and others didn't care that much at all. Knowing this, she felt completely relaxed. Through the exercise that Second City did with Katie, we can actually see that when they create improv performances, do improv performance training, and conduct other business cooperation through comedy, they all implement a concept, that is, you can only change people's attitudes if you first attract their attention, you can only change their behavior if you change their attitudes first. That is to say, attention, attitude, behavior, this is a chain of transmission that they believe must be followed. Just like when they helped Katie solve the problem, instead of telling her the truth directly, they let her participate in an impressive game, let her change her attitude, and then fell into action. Another time, a well-known management consulting company came to Second City to help train its management consultants. What is the training? It turned out that although the management consultants of this company provided professional advice to customers, their attitude was not good, and they always put on a superior posture, which made people feel very arrogant and made customers feel uncomfortable. Therefore, the task of Second City is to help these consultants realize the problem without arousing their resistance. So, they arranged several humorous skits to satirize typical problems in business consulting. For example, they created a character called Bow Interrupt, who can talk endlessly with one mouth. As long as he is there, others will not be able to speak a complete sentence or express a complete opinion. After reading these sketches, the consultants were very touched. They realized that many of the situations played out in the skit also happened to them. Most of the time, they only focus on exporting the so-called correct opinions and ignore the feelings of customers. Therefore, they took the initiative to receive some training to improve their listening skills, and also learned how to use a positive tone to communicate with customers, so that faithful words do not hurt their ears. Also, after the financial crisis in 2007, Second City's main businesses at that time, entertainment, training and marketing, were hit hard. At this time, some corporate clients approached them and wanted them to use short videos to provide ethics and compliance training for their employees. The Second City suddenly discovered that this was completely in line with their ideas. Because the disadvantage of many corporate compliance trainings at that time was that they were boring and divorced from reality, and the employees had no effect after listening to the training. However, if those non-compliance behaviors can be made into funny short videos, it can grab the attention of employees and make them feel that these things are about me. Later, based on this principle, they developed the business segment of real commercial short films, which was welcomed by the market and expanded to more than 300 corporate customers within 3 years. The second part. What we just said are some impressive examples in this book. Next, let's talk about some of the improvisation principles that can be used in the business world that are highlighted in the book. The first principle is called yes, and. These two words form the basis of all improvisation, the author says. Why? Because of the impromptu performance, there is no prescribed script, and usually several people work together, you and I say one sentence, and in the interaction, the play is gradually enriched. The principle of yes, and means that when an actor says a sentence, other actors must first admit or agree with the actor's words, and then add their own opinions based on this sentence. For example, actor A said, "My God, I have never seen so many stars in the sky." Actor B said, "That's right. I didn't expect standing on the moon to see the starry sky would be so different." In a word, the idea of yes and is very typical. B first agrees with A's point of view and then adds new ideas, telling the audience that they have gone to the moon. Of course, after that, A will continue to create according to the new information given by B. This cycle repeats itself. However, if in the first round, B denies A, saying, "I don't see a single star. Where did the stars come from during the day?" then this is the end of the topic, and it will be difficult to continue the performance. In short, the yes and principle, its central idea is to accept other people's ideas and then add new ideas on this basis. The book tells us that this principle applies not only to improv, but also to many scenes in the commercial field. For example, when you want to improve the communication atmosphere with others, when everyone brainstorms and conceives new ideas together, and when you promote negotiations, resolve conflicts, or persuade others. Is this principle really that broad? Next, let's talk in detail how to use this principle in business practice. During the process, you will hear the scenes we just talked about. Let's say yes first and then and. Yes, isn't it agreeing? In fact, if you want to say yes, there is another implicit condition, that is, you must first listen to the other party. Whether it is impromptu performance or daily communication, if you want to complete a constructive and rich dialogue, you have to understand the other party's thoughts, which requires focused listening first. Everyone knows the importance of listening. There are also many people who think that they are good at listening, but the author reminds us to ask ourselves a question: do you listen to understand other people's thoughts, or to seize the opportunity to express your own thoughts? This is the question posed by management guru Stephen Covey in his famous book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He found that, in fact, most people listen to respond rather than listen to understand. But in fact, listening to respond is not really listening. If you're listening to respond, you're probably halfway through the listening process, scrambling in your head for an answer or counterargument. In this case, it is impossible to fully understand what the other person is saying. Then your response may be completely different from what the other person said, or you think that you and the other party's ideas are opposite, but in fact they are not, just because you didn't listen to the other party's speech well and misunderstood. According to the authors, the Second City team has conducted workshops with thousands of corporate clients and discovered that business people in particular prefer to be responders rather than listeners. One major reason is that they subconsciously want to control the flow of the conversation. Interestingly, however, this habit can actually have the opposite effect. The more you try to wrest control, the harder it is to earn the other person's respect. In particular, if you get the point wrong because you are eager to respond, you may also make yourself look like a clown who speaks without weight, and the gain outweighs the gain. In contrast, those who listen with empathy are more likely to win the respect of the other party and achieve their own goals. After listening carefully, we can say that yes. But you may ask, do I have to agree with what the other party says? Of course not. You can set some bottom lines before the conversation, and if you touch these bottom lines, you can firmly say no. In addition, the principle of yes and is the most applicable scenario when you want to have a friendly conversation atmosphere with the other party without triggering the other party's resistance, or when you want to encourage team members to speak freely and contribute new ideas. At these times, the sentence yes is actually reminding us not to subconsciously take no as a default answer. A business executive who participated in the Second City training said, "The yes and principle made me understand that although I may not like every idea I hear, at least I should give each idea a congratulations. I like the opportunity, if only for a little while." The author very much agrees with this statement. Because many times, a good idea may not seem so reliable at first. For example, there is a well-known sitcom Seinfeld in the United States. At the beginning of the script sales meeting, the TV station commented that there is no theme at all. The first part of Harry Potter was praised by many publishers refused. Also, father of the iPod Tony Fadell, with the idea of the iPod, was rejected by several companies. But now that we know, it turns out that these ideas are very marketable. Therefore, many times, some ideas that seem crazy at first glance are worthy of our second or even third glance. Saying yes doesn't mean you have to adopt every idea, but it reminds you to give them a chance to be adopted. After saying yes, we have to follow it with and. The and does not mean that you must say these two words, but that you must have a kind of awareness, that is, after agreeing with the other party's idea, then develop this idea. For example, provide a supplementary perspective, provide further details, or extend a new direction, and so on. This works well when brainstorming or discussing ideas. You can use this line of thinking even when dealing with mistakes. For example, one day, you received customers and your performance was not very good. Afterwards, the boss asks you, "Did you lose a customer?" Then you can first admit, yes, and then immediately follow up and say, "I have figured out why this happened, and I have made a problem analysis and summary to prevent it from happening again in the future. If a similar situation arises, can I report it to you?" This is also a yes and coping mentality, which will allow you to present an honest and non-negative state. Also, when we need to resolve difficult problems, we also need this kind of yes and thinking. Yes represents an attitude of acknowledging problems and facing challenges directly, and represents actively planning solutions on the basis of acknowledging the existence of problems. Churchill's famous saying, "Never waste a crisis," is actually a yes and in essence. The third part. So far we have talked about the important principle of improvisation, yes, and. Next, we will talk about another one, which is co-creation, not monologue. Co-creation in improv performance refers to both co-creation with performance partners and co-creation with the audience. Let's talk about co-creation with performance partners first. The caveat here is not to let a play become your own monologue or your partner's monologue. Don't become your own monologue. This is easy to understand, that is, you can't patronize yourself and don't give the other party room to express. In business, it's equally noteworthy. For example, during a meeting, many people will habitually cling to the ideas they put forward and don't like others to supplement or change the ideas. However, the author reminds us to always remember that the purpose of the discussion is to find that best point of view, not your point of view. Therefore, many times, you need to give up control of your own views for the greater good of the team. People in Second City have found through observation that in a team, the more top creative talents are, the less willing they are to share control. Second City believes that this is a very unfortunate thing. Because in their experience, creatives who are willing to give up control end up with far better finished products than those who are only willing to sing a one-man show. Therefore, when they train improvisers, they often emphasize the phrase "bring a brick, not a castle," which means, remember to create together, not a monologue. What I just said is, don't let a play become your own monologue, and in turn, don't let it become someone else's monologue. That means, don't put all the creative burden on your partner. For example, imagine an impromptu conversation like this one. A said, "I really like summer by the sea." B said, "Why are we here?" A said, "You know, we are here to bask in the sun, swim, and make friends." B said, "But I can't swim." Speaking of which, the performance basically couldn't go on. Because every time B responds, he is blocking what is said, rather than cooperating to develop content. His words were like in a friendly badminton match, deliberately making a smash that caught people off guard, as if to say, "Let's see how you catch it." Similar scenarios may also appear in the workplace. For example, during a brainstorming session to design a marketing plan for a new product. A said, "Guys, our client has launched a new craft beer aimed at young men living in cities." B said, "Will these people really buy this kind of beer?" A said, "The marketing plan we have to do is to try to make them buy." Everyone can let go and say that at this brainstorming stage, all opinions are welcome. B said, "Really? I just want to hear good opinions." It can be seen that every word of B is questioning, blocking, smashing, completely destroying the free and open creative atmosphere. The author said that this is essentially because B is afraid that he is not creative enough to come up with good ideas, so he uses doubts to cover up his fear. But still the same sentence, no one asks you to contribute a castle. Even if you feel that you don't have any good ideas for the time being, you can add your own brick based on other people's ideas, or save the question for the questioning session. Focus on discussions instead of subconsciously negating and questioning at the stage of co-creation. What we just said is that we create together with our partners. Co-creation has another meaning, which is to co-create with the audience. Improvisers must not only pay attention to user reactions during the performance, but also ask the audience for suggestions after the performance, and then make adjustments to the comedy material based on the audience's feedback. Sometimes an improv show, when incorporated with audience feedback, can become a recurring comedy piece. In addition to performances, Second City also uses this idea in commercial activities. They once helped a company that sells cleaning products, Clorox, come up with an interesting marketing campaign. They launched an awards campaign on social media platforms. What awards? It's called the Galax Sloppy King Award. They invited parents to take pictures of the various disaster scenes created by the children at home, the messier the better, and then send them to them on social media to participate in the selection. In the end, they organized a live broadcast of the award presentation, using pictures, sketches, monologues, etc. to show everyone's contributions. The live stream went viral on social media, with Clorox receiving more than 130 million views. Through this experience, Second City summed up 3 lessons. 1. The best materials always come from real life. 2. Works co-created with users are often more exciting than those written by yourself after a few nights. 3. As long as you welcome audience participation, they will really respond positively. Regarding the third point, they found that there is a scientific basis behind this, which is the closed principle in neuroscience. What it says is that the human brain has a characteristic, that is, it is used to complete incomplete things by itself. For example, when we see a picture with a missing piece or a sentence with a missing word, we will automatically complete it in our minds. And likewise, there is a natural willingness to participate in completing an imperfect idea or an unfinished list. That's the driving force behind co-creation, it's human nature. Therefore, we will observe that in recent years, more and more companies have begun to follow this principle and co-create more with users. For example, extensive collection of user opinions at the stage of program or product formation, or the promotion of the program itself is to allow users to participate in a co-creation activity. Fourth part. Next, let's talk about another principle of improvisation. If you fail with laughter, you should also face failure with a smile. In improv, comedy, failure is very common. Sometimes it's a mouthful, a jam, a cold spot, and sometimes it can be an entire show that gets bad feedback. Therefore, improvisers also summed up a wealth of experience about failure. First of all, to fail with laughter means to relax mentally and not to make failure a big deal. Second City spends a lot of time in business training, encouraging clients to overcome their fear of failure. Because they know that the greatest enemy of creativity is the fear of failure. It will make people afraid to do things, dare not take a step forward, dare not face difficulties, dare not take on greater responsibilities, and dare not express their true thoughts. To avoid this from happening, in addition to adjusting your own mentality, the cooperation of the external environment is also very important. The author reminds that employees' fear of failure will exhaust the company's innovation power. Therefore, the company's management should provide employees with a safe creative environment as much as possible, and do not threaten or punish them for mistakes. Encourage employees to pursue unique paths. Let employees know that even if their viewpoints are not adopted, they have thrown out some clues and contributed to the emergence and improvement of the entire viewpoint. They can even use incentive funds to encourage innovation. You can also take the initiative to lead the employees to laugh at failures. For example, Second City once helped some companies organize internal Tutsao conferences, displaying products under development and encouraging everyone to criticize, joke, and come up with new ideas. This is to provide a safe environment for everyone to point out problems and face failures. After talking about failure with laughter, let's talk about face failure with a smile. Improvisers will inevitably make mistakes on stage, and they will be silent. At this time, they can't hide it, and they can't stop performing. All they can do is smile and continue to perform. Of course, there are also some actors who can not only laugh, but also ridicule their own mistakes and silences, and even turn them into new jokes on the spot to amuse the audience. In addition, improvisers have an attitude in the face of failure, that is, they will strive to transform them into nourishment for subsequent performances. So they often do many experimental performances in small theaters before big performances. Every mistake in the experimental performance is to help future performances become better. They believe in a saying, fail early, iterate fast. This sentence is also applicable in the business field. For example, some radio stations will play the music of new debuts and non-mainstream artists in a special program section, just to quickly experiment, eliminate works that are not popular in the market, and leave a focus on cultivation with good feedback. In addition, some software companies will conduct several rounds of small-scale trials before launching the software. After the product is officially launched, they will actively track feedback in the community and quickly iterate the product. The Second City team observed that even in some of the top traditional restaurants, food, tableware, and presentation are constantly being deconstructed and redesigned. A culinary guru told them, "In the kitchen, if we fail fast." This is to ensure the drive to innovate and the courage to keep going. In short, as Churchill said, success is by no means the end, and neither is failure. Only the courage to keep going is the most important thing. Fail early and iterate quickly, and you are more likely to achieve the ultimate goal and achieve satisfactory results. The result of life changes quickly, you have to improvise, and finally, let's recap. Number 1, you can't change people's attitudes unless you get their attention. You can't change their behavior unless you change their attitudes. The second is to run yes, and into your own way of thinking. The third is to create together, not a monologue. Fourth, fail with laughter, and face failure with a smile. In addition to these, the book also talks about some other improv principles, such as, face the problem and find the elephant in the room, respect, not respect, nothing can be done without trust, etc. Interested friends can find this book and read it in detail. In addition, this book is also very practical, that is, it provides a lot of small games in the appendix, which can help us better practice the improvisation principles mentioned in the book. Once you've internalized the principles of improv through these exercises, they can be used like muscle memory in a variety of situations, the authors say. This is the end of this episode of the show. What do you think about it differently? Welcome to leave a message to discuss with everyone. Hey, if you like our channel, please subscribe us. Haha, remember to like it.